Hey there, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate the time, and I appreciate all the passion you bring into the world for beautiful culture from the 80s, comedy, movies, writing, just everything, all that. Let's jump into a podcast. What do you say?
Sounds good.
Everybody, welcome to A Little Too Quiet. It's the Ferndale Library podcast. It's brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. I am Jeff Milo. I'm joined here by Jason Klamm, who has many hyphenates. Catch me if I miss one. Definitely podcaster, writer, culture lover, movie lover, comedy lover, actor, director, producer, voice actor, and published author. How many books now? Is this your second book that we're about to talk about?
This is my second traditionally published book.
Okay.
Yes, but it's my 8th book that I've written.
Incredible. The book coming out in June is Ferris Bueller, You're My Hero. If I use my memory from the subtitle, the story of the world's most famous day off.
Hey, you got it, because I can't remember it.
Okay. A story about... a story that kind of becomes inevitably about its director, John Hughes, but we'll get into that. And then also there's We're Not Worthy. If there's a subtitle there, I can't remember.
It's too long. And yeah, it's about 90s sketch comedy, but basically it's, this history of 90s sketch comedy from this to this, all that,
Sure.
It's too long. It's too long.
Also host of the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. I think, though I do very much want to jump into Ferris Bueller almost immediately. Mm-hmm. Given that I've laid some context on the table, I would just love to hear you answer for yourself, sir, and how you got to where you are right now with all those hats you've been wearing.
Impatience. 18 years in LA without selling a movie or TV show, despite pitching and writing plenty of them.
Okay.
The whole, the best piece of advice I ever got from anybody when I was already doing it, but it was nice to get it from somebody who was a professional. I reached out when I first moved there. I was 23, and I emailed Thomas Lennon from the state, maybe better known to some people from Reno 911 or any other number of things.
That's Lieutenant Dangle.
Yes, Lieutenant Dangle, thank you. And I was like, can I have some advice? I'm just starting out. And he wrote back, a number of things. The old, write every day, which, by the way, was not doing all that other stuff. But the big one he said was greenlight yourself, which is make your own stuff so that you can get it out there and so that, people will see that you can actually do the thing you're claiming you can do. And I'd already been doing that. I had sort of a viral video hit in 2001, which is 4 years before YouTube even existed. And viral video did not mean millions of hits then. I got to make sure that's clear.
Sure.
But I'd been making my own stuff anyway, but it was really nice hearing, oh, you know what? Okay, so I'm on an okay path, but I will say it took, 20 years of doing that to make anything happen with it. Mm-hmm. But long story short, that's when I heard about podcasting. I was like, I should start one. I didn't know they didn't need to have a theme. So I started one about vinyl comedy because I knew I loved vinyl comedy. Didn't realize I didn't know anything about it at the time. I knew comedy, but I didn't know vinyl comedy as deeply as I thought. And I'm like, we'll just talk with friends. I'll just talk with my buddies, which we did. And then Comedy on Vinyl is how I met Bermuda Schwartz, which is Weird Al's drummer and archivist. He connected me with my current publisher. I pitched a Comedy on Vinyl book that never happened, may never happen, but that's how I started writing professionally. So
wow.
I hope that wasn't too long.
No, that was fantastic. And let's come back to that podcast, but let's get up to the matter at hand. Also, first of all, commendable. And it sounds like considerable periods of your life involved considerable amounts of lack of sleep. That's how you get there is odd hours and blood and sweat and tears. Mm-hmm. But tell us how you got when and how you started getting into the book writing and we'll come back to the podcast, but like,
Sure. No, that's fine. So the first book I wrote ever, because self-publishing was a thing, I had been like, I'd gone to an alternative high school in upstate New York and been mentored by this beat author named Fielding Dawson. And this guy was like, do whatever you want, write whatever you want. I'm barely going to edit you. And then we all got published when we were 15 in this local anthology. And I was hooked immediately. I'm not counting that, but I will say I got hooked on that. And then within 5 years from there, you could start self-publishing your own books online. And so the first one I did was... It's so hard I'm trying to do this without giving you a million years of backstory. Long story short, starting in 2004, I started a fake campaign for the presidency. It was a bit, it was an improv thing, and I started writing a book in character. That book was called Looking Forward, a Hope Memoir, which is a memoir for the life I hope to have lived by the time I'm 36. Very dumb. Still kind of proud of it, actually. I reread some of it recently. It is sadly very prescient. A lot of the things I've said have been said by other people since that I maybe am not a big fan of. And but that was how I first got into it. I'm like, oh, well, this will be a companion to this show or movie I'm definitely going to end up selling. And from there, I was just like, oh, I want to do another one. So my next book was A Fake History of the Internet. So I self-published that. And then a few other things in between. And eventually, I pitched several versions of what became We're Not Worthy to 1984 Publishing out of Cleveland. Okay. And then that's how that happened.
Both of those books have a level of mischievousness and in the back of my head some energy from the Colbert Report character was coming into my and then I just thought of Colbert in general or Strangers with Candy, a little bit of a provocateur energy, and I stole
a lot from Stephen Colbert, I will not lie.
And I don't know if like Andy Kaufman's coming in here. This seems like an interesting kind of comedy that you were resonating with at that time in your life.
Yeah, and I mean, I still kind of like the idea generally, and I'm sure there's a better term for this, but fake history is something I'm really, really, really hugely into. And learning to write fake history, because I'd read so much nonfiction as a kid, my whole goal was like, I'm going to make fun of the way people write. It also then means I don't have to control myself. I don't have to be a good writer. I can just be a funny writer, and that was okay. Then when it came to writing actual nonfiction, I realized I had to have to rein myself in. Don't write paragraph long sentences, that kind of stuff. Because like you're not doing bits here, Jason. You're writing an actual informative book. So
sure. All right. But like, there's like, you're having fun with commentary, yes, to elevate it in maybe some kind of Twainian kind of way. So I like that.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Jason Klamm, the descendant of Mark Twain. You heard it here on the podcast. Take us into We're Not Worthy and just tell us a little bit about that, because
sure,
plenty of millennials listening to this podcast.
So sketch comedy is, if I'm going to say so comedy is my life, but if like there's one particular kind of comedy that really, really, really gets me going, it's sketch comedy. And I think We're Not Worthy, if I'm not mistaken, the evolution was book on comedy on vinyl. Then he's book on sketch comedy. Then what about sketch comedy TV shows? Oh, then what about sketch comedy of the 90s? And then so it became that, because that's the stuff I grew up on. And I realized also like, oh, a million things have been written about Python. I can't really write a book about Python. It's been done. I've interviewed people who've written those books, and they're great, but that's already been done. But I realized the 90s is the era where the first people raised on Python were finally making sketch comedy of their own. And I was like, oh, I have an angle. Oh, good, I have an angle. And then I also realized what killed sketch comedy. Oh no, it was reality TV, because that became the cheapest thing to produce. And so I had an angle, and whether that's 100% accurate or not, look, I am not a scholar. I am just, I am somewhat of an expert, and I love to study this stuff. And that seemed like this obvious arc to me. And so I just went and interviewed 150 people, like people from the history of sketch. So like Carol Burnett, I interviewed her. I interviewed a guy who was a regular on your show of shows. He wasn't a comedian, but it didn't matter. I interviewed one of the producers of the Smothers Brothers, and then boop, 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 all the way up. And I interviewed as many people from 90s sketch as I possibly could. And, that was a joy to do, I have to say, because sketch is I still do sketch, and I love it.
Wonderful. This is a tangent, but as a scholar, clearly, what do you think it is? Because this is a conversation I was having recently. We were talking about this. Apparently, there's like a thing. I wouldn't call it a beef, but around or between Carol Burnett and Lorne Michaels, and we were discussing this energy of how, because my partner and I were like, it's so great to. We love it when people break on Carol Burnett. Apparently, Lorne Michaels hates that, and yet when people do it on SNL, the crowd loves it, and I love it, and apparently he hates it. What's your line there, and what's that thoughts on that?
It depends on the sketch. It depends on the brand of sketch. Like the stuff I do, which is all like produced and has always been produced, is rarely actually live. It would be weird for you to break.
Sure.
But live stuff, that's the very nature of it. Right. It's always going to happen as long as you're not forcing it down our throats, and as long as you're not just an unprepared. I'm trying not to swear. As long as you're not Jimmy Fallon trying to fail, then who cares? Like breaking is so great. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's probably a period where Harvey Korman and Tim Conway were trying to make that happen to the other person, but it's on the other person not to crack. And like it becomes a competition. It's part of the vibe. Right. So I don't know. Like I laugh. Like we're programmed to laugh when somebody else laughs. That's the whole point of it. It is meant to be communicable. So why would you not? Like Lorne can complain all he wants about that, but like make a different show.
Yeah, for sure. And I do want to get into this situation in which you apparently played Conan O'Brien. We'll get to that in a second.
I did.
But Conan has spoken about being raised on Python and all of that, but Python also had like what do you call it? Not pre-taped, but like not live situations. As did eventually the cavalcade of the '90s of The State, Kids in the Hall, Mr. Show. Was that something you were really into and resonated with? Because that is a different beast. The
pre-tape parts, you mean? The pre-tape ones? Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, more than the live stuff, because I was always until, 2010 or so, I hadn't really performed on a stage much. I was scared of it. I liked the security blanket of producing stuff. I've made a ton of comedy albums because I like the security of it. And I also, this is a side thing, but I'm madly in love with comedy albums specifically for the theater of the mind. And I love really well-produced ones. So I love the opportunity to see what somebody does, given the opportunity to fully produce a sketch outside of the confines of, or lack of confines of doing it live,
Right. That is interesting. And at the top of my head, you do see there's a different energy that the performer or comedic actor has to do. If you're interacting with the audience, you do have Carol Burnett, but if it's just like a crew and a camera, you need someone like a constantly Emmy-nominated Bob Odenkirk to like do that.
Yes.
Or you need someone who's trying to make literal short films like a Bruce McCullough. There's like, it's so hard to do, Jason.
Oh yeah, no, believe me. I made my own sketch pilot, and much as I think I am good at writing sketch comedy, I know why it didn't sell, and I wouldn't do it the same way again. And frankly, it's my comedy group is probably a comedy album group, and that's fine with me. We're the XTC of comedy album, of sketch comedy groups.
But that's tricky. Like, I guess talk about how you approach making a comedy album, or what makes a good comedy album.
For me, okay, so this is actually going to go back a little bit to the writing the fake nonfiction thing. For me, the idea of investing that much time and production quality serves two purposes. One is you've properly invested in it. You're giving the people at home something to listen to, something to grasp onto. Listen to a Firesign album, listen to a Cheech and Chong album. They are produced so beautifully, like you were in it. It is like a movie for your ears. To me, though, the opposite end of it, though, is it's comedy. Comedy is frivolous. Comedy is silly. Comedy is stupid by its very nature. And that's why it's also beautiful. So taking comedy seriously that long and to that an extent, to me, is a joke in and of itself. And I think that's gorgeous. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Can you, I'm sorry, this is turning into a quiz, but can you give folks some context around the Firesign Theater?
The Firesign Theater are, I was actually trying to explain this yesterday. Yeah. They're hard to explain because I call them a sketch comedy group. That's not actually accurate. It's just easier for me to label them that way. They're a hippie art collective who did comedy albums that are art pieces. They're concept art. They're concept albums. They flow one sketch to the next. Usually, sometimes they'll refer to something that was happening on the other side of the record, or would be happening on the other side of the record at that very moment. It's very weird, very meta. They were a lot of people when Python came over to America for the first time. Some people were like, "Oh, you guys are like the Firesign Theater," because some people knew Firesign before they knew Python. So yeah, very weird. It's hard to explain. And I actually was tasked with trying to tell people what's the first Firesign record you should listen to, and that would be "You're All Bozos." We're all bozos on this bus, because that one is the most approachable. The rest are almost impossible to crack through. And I say that not as an insult. It's just they're dense. They're really dense, and you're going to miss a lot.
Sure. Let's come back to comedy. Oh wait, just one more quick question.
I'm sorry. I'm also leading us down these weird paths.
No, I know it. Okay, so again, as a documented official scholar, I'm curious. Do you have any favorite sketches or single sketch? And it doesn't matter where it's from.
Oh God. Okay.
Because I've got an answer, and it's a bad one. So.
No, there's no bad one. There's no bad one. I'm sure it's good. I don't care. Because what it will probably end up being is one I beat myself up for not thinking of, This is so hard. This is honestly so difficult.
I'm going to let you collect your thoughts, and I'll go ahead.
Oh, no, I've got one.
Okay, great.
And it's only because it's inspired so much of what I've written. And it's not their best sketch, but it pops into my head a lot. And it's Rock Notes by Monty Python. And I will also very quickly insist that their albums are better than the TV show. I love the show. The albums are better. They're better produced. There's a sketch called Rock Notes that is just Eric Idle listing off a series of notes about recent happenings in the rock music world with a bunch of fake bands, including Toad the Wet Sprocket, which ended up being a real band eventually because of that sketch. Right. It's a great sketch. It's very simple. It's very short. It's just a bunch of nonsense being spewed. I don't know that it's the best sketch ever made, but it is one that pops into my head a lot.
That's wonderful. I'm going to go track it down.
You should.
For the record, and I don't think this is my favorite sketch, but it's the one I like to say at dinner parties if I'm ever asked. But there was a sketch in '92 or '93 in SNL that I think kind of clearly it made it past dress, but I think it kind of dies in the room, even though I think it's insane and really dark, and for some reason it's nearly 8 minutes long. But it's Tom Hanks leading a meeting of the Mr. Belvedere fan club in a hotel, and Phil Hartman is in it, Chris Farley is in it, Tim Meadows shows up, and it's just a bunch of very played straight, technically sick people who are obsessing over, quote, the actor who played Mr. Belvedere, never naming him other than that. And then they eventually decide that they have to think of a familiar nickname for him, and they come up somehow with Brock Toon, and it just unravels from there, and it gets a little dark, but I just love that it's so kind of almost, and this is another tangent, I almost think it's one of the earliest iterations I saw of what people reductively call anti-humor.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
that's gorgeous. Yeah. I've never seen it. If I can find that online, I will watch that. That sounds like
send it to you after this. I think
it's something I would write.
I think it's time we took a day off. Take us into Ferris Bueller, and I guess just the moment, because where does a book come from? Is there a morning you wake up and you're like, I gotta do it? Like, where'd the inspiration come from to begin, first of all?
I was pitching a number of, it's one of those things too, where I'm like, oh, what would I love to write about? And there's this and this and this. And I feel like the ether was throwing John Hughes at me without realizing it. But of his films, maybe of the ones he directed, maybe Planes, Trains is his most sophisticated, at least in terms of he actually that's when he really hit his stride in terms of directing.
Yeah.
But my personal favorite of the ones that he directed, there are plenty of movies, because I'm of age to have loved Home Alone to the point where I have to watch that movie every year and I adore it. But I think Ferris Bueller's Day Off is his best. I just didn't think that I would even bother pitching it because in order to sell that book, you have to interview at the very least Matthew Broderick, and I didn't think that was a likelihood. So, but it happened. So, yeah. So, I mean, I pitched a number of different movie titles, but Ferris Bueller's Day Off is probably my favorite John Hughes directed movie, and it's one that I grew up addicted to. There are a few movies that I had as a kid that I watched over and over and over again and memorized. Mm-hmm. You've got Clue, you've got Grease 2, which is one I don't bring up that often for various reasons. I love that movie so much.
Quick note.
Yes.
Michelle Pfeiffer's just amazing, and damn it, deserved minimum a Golden Globe nomination for Catwoman. Okay, go ahead.
Agreed. No, you're not wrong. And then, there were a couple, one, two, skip a few, you got to Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And that was when I literally stayed home to watch and literally almost failed school because I stayed home so much time. So, and so at some point I kind of realized, oh, this is perfect. And I've also played, I played Ed Rooney on stage a few times in LA when we did Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And
I got to ask about that. Do you, top of your head, is there, in your opinion, what's the most delicious line to deliver as Ed Rooney?
Oh, it's not pucker up buttercup, although that was really fun. Oh, you know what? He is just leading you down the primrose path.
That's what I thought it was going to be. Okay. Sorry. Anyway.
You got to eat it up, though. That was the part. As I got to play parts like Hans Gruber and Marty McFly, but I will tell you, getting to do that line and making sure I nailed it was one of my favorite things.
If I ever played Hans Gruber, I would put all the mustard on. It's Christmas time, Theo. It's a time of good miracles, so be a good cheer. Anyway,
it's Christmas time, Theo. Oh my God, I love him so much.
I know.
I love him so much. I played him once with 3 bruised ribs.
Oh
that was a time. But yeah, so I love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Loved it enough to know all the stuff everybody knows about it and figured I could dig in. And now it's weird because a year and a half later, I'm an expert. I probably know more about the production of that movie than anybody who's alive. And that's weird.
And talk about, it's a fantastic preface, but it gives us some background as to where this comes from. You're going to Chicago for film school. You're starting your dream. You take us back to a really pivotal moment in your life. So talk about just encountering Chicago.
I come from, by the way, if I absolutely repeat that introduction verbatim, I apologize. Sometimes my brain gets stuck in loops. I'll try not to, but I came from a village of 200, a small village in upstate New York. And I had been to New York City once or twice, was very scared of it, didn't like it, is creepy. And so going to a city where I was actually going to live was really scary. And I needed something to calm me down, relax me. And the thing I decided to do is take pictures from locations from my favorite movies. And fortunately, it was the early era of the internet, so those locations were at least not widely available, but available enough on a few websites where I could go shoot Rob's, shop from High Fidelity, which I did, and then a bunch of locations from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, mostly like the stairs and the Calder statue and a few other places like that. And that was what I used to relax myself. It was like to feel at home, because I sort of like the idea of living inside those movies was always something I wanted. And that's why I was they were comfort food. So I was repeating the lines along with the movie. And there was just something weird and probably mentally unsettling about me living inside the movies. It's the only way I've been able to describe it. And so being in a location for the first time where they'd shot a movie that meant so much to me was just huge. It's such a visceral thing. I think I talk a bit about pilgrimages. I get very pretentious in this introduction, but pilgrimages to film places are very real. They're very important to me. I could tell you a million fun and disappointing stories about doing that when I finally moved to LA. And I don't know. From there, it sticks with you even more, even if you already loved that movie. But it's never left. And because of that, because of those few moments, I was finally comfortable being in a city, at least a little bit.
I'm kind of jumping to the end here, but the magic about Ferris Bueller is, whatever, it's a 90-minute movie, but about, it's about fun, escaping from school and going to a French restaurant and going to a baseball game and going to the museum and it's exciting. Get to like borrow a car. But then at about 75, 80 minutes into the movie, you realize what it was really about. It was about someone really just using some time right now before a big transition, because he's literally about to leave high school. Or there's like Cameron, like also coming out of a chrysalis and being ready to stand up to his father. There's really like, oh, so this is what this movie was about all along, is these like these moments of like transition that they're coming to. And it just seems like there's a couple of parallels that, you know, you yourself was in a very transitional moment. That was a big move and a big step in your life. So I wonder if there's something there. And even Hughes is kind of like trying to grow and expand at that point. And the book obviously becomes about Hughes. So there's all this like people on the precipice, or as you put it perfectly, embodying a celebration of what it means to be on the verge of something we can't possibly understand.
Yeah. So it's funny because you would think I would concentrate more on the mental health part of it that has become more part of the conversation, which is there.
Sure.
There's no doubt that it's there, right? But like that, for some reason, that's the thing that hit me more, is just this like, it's just leaping without the knowledge of what you're leaping into, growing into something, even though you don't really know what's ahead of you, because you can't.
Right.
And the cities were still very scary for me for a long time, but the fact that I could accept it and like slowly but surely move on with my life. Yeah, you're not wrong. Like it was definitely a very important time as far as that goes for me.
Yeah. That must have been incredibly a small percentage surreal and a little bit cathartic to just write about, or I don't know. I think is that kind of why, and it's not. You say it immediately. It's not a biography, but it inevitably, when you talk to so many people who make this movie, Hughes is going to come up. He's just going to come up. So, and you being so into film in general, you're going to be thinking about the mind and the talent that brought this thing into being. So
yeah, I was avoiding it too, because I was like, when I spoke with his son James Hughes, was one of my first 10 interviews, and from that you get a perspective on I'm not a journalist, so I feel obviously beholden to the truth, but I am very much I look out a little bit more for my interviewees, so I make sure that they sound good on paper when some authors don't do that. If they really come back and I know I didn't say off the record, but could you change that? I respect that. Like, I'm big on that. But also the vibe I got from James Hughes is obviously looking out for his dad's legacy for a million different reasons, and he was also just like, he's like, the only reason I signed on for this is because it wasn't about all of my dad's movies. And I was like, okay, that's fair. Like, he's like, I wanted to speak to you because it's about this one movie. It's a movie I also happen to love. And I also just got the vibe without him saying it that, you know, he didn't want this to be a book about his dad. So as I found myself writing those first 4 chapters, which are heavily about Hughes, I was just like becoming very self-aware as to like, okay, please make sure that this is actually leading to something. It's not just, you're not just telling the story of John Hughes just because you had the opportunity. Right. It has to be actually leading to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which I think I did. I think I accomplished, but you worry about those things.
Oh, for sure. But the existentialism is there too. And it's almost like that's, and maybe there's more you can reveal from the interviews you did, but it feels like something is trailing in a little bit from, because it's only a year and a half, less than 2 years. Some is trailing off from Breakfast Club, like the moody teen, like the teen really thinking about and just like getting really heavy. Yeah. But maybe it's a credit to Alan Ruck, or it's a credit to where the crescendo goes. There's so much more fulfilling to see Cameron get on the other end of that than is to see Ali Sheedy do a makeover. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what it is. No, about
absolutely
that.
It. I mean, he's better at writing boys. There's no getting around it. He only wrote white people. That's another thing too. Right. Like he had an audience and he knew who he was writing for, but he also wasn't trying too hard to write outside of his own experience. But yeah, there is that element of, even though, and I dig into it a little bit in the book, I don't know that he was writing empathetically towards Cameron. He's writing sympathetically. It's very much, I feel bad for this guy, but I also don't necessarily think he has the problems we have all since maybe placed upon Cameron. I do think he was heavily depressed. That seems pretty obvious to me, but it wasn't obvious to the man who wrote it, which is so interesting. But yeah, I think a lot of credit goes to John Hughes as well, but Paul Hirsch, the editor, because obviously so much was cut out that would have made it a little more, if not angsty, a little just darker and unnecessarily so. And that would have changed both Ferris and Cameron, obviously, heavily.
That's so fascinating, because I also can't help thinking about how much is cut. Tangent again, how much is cut from planes, trains, and automobiles. That changes the final package if you keep it. So
that was a 4-hour cut or thereabouts. The first cut, which is never going to be theatrical, but that 4-hour cut was right. And everybody says that John Candy's character, Del Griffith, you hated him in that first cut. Nobody liked him. He was unlikable. But that seems impossible. But
I'm thinking anecdotally, famously, of like the 3 pages of dialogue that are cut at the end where you get some of his backstory. And I don't know. There's a lot of decisions that come, and maybe this is something you talked about too with Breakfast Club. It begins a little like a straightforward comedy, and then it gets dark. This seems to be decisions being made that we don't want Ferris to be too angsty of a movie. We want this to be a little brighter. We don't want Planes, Trains to get too dark. We're going to have some almost Abbott and Costello kind of energy spliced in. So, yeah, I don't know. Did you tell us more about what you learned from John Hughes? You don't have to spoil the book or anything, but what were some of your most profound takeaways?
I mean, the thing that struck me the most, because I knew he was in advertising and everything, but I don't think I realized how much he was never writing for just himself, or at least claimed to be writing for an audience. And it's more common, at least in comedy, to be told, hey, write for yourself first. Not write for yourself alone, but write for yourself first. And I never saw John Hughes echo anything like that. And to me, the idea of being able to write just towards an audience, or at least think that's what you're doing, I could never do it, but it's kind of a remarkable skill set that I admire the hell out of it. I don't know, again, maybe he was just too used to it, and he's just good at it. But it is really weird, because most comedians are, again, try not to use any bad words or anything, but most comedians, well, they're very self-relating when it comes to writing, because they really want to entertain themselves first. And I get it. Like, otherwise you're not going to enjoy the process. You got to sit there and enjoy the jokes. You can chop them down later and get to some. But John Hughes kind of just wrote. He regardless of good or bad, he was genuinely writing for this particular fake audience, an eventual real audience he had in mind. And again, I really admire it. Could never do it. I don't think would ever be me, but that's the biggest takeaway, was really about him, particularly that. I
am not proud, but I'm not gonna resist. I'm not proud to go off on a generational thing here, but there's this vibe I pick up on in some Hughes movies, and I would imagine he's technically, even though he passes away young, he's technically in the baby boom era.
Oh yeah,
and his movies are just synonymous with Gen X, and there is an energy to this with, like, specifically, I guess, Breakfast Club, Ferris, where maybe the Reagan era, like, baby boomers have this, the joke is, or the conceit is, oh, you teens, you don't even know how hard it is, or you've a day off, you don't deserve a day off, or even with Del, you think Del doesn't deserve to be liked. There's these underdogs who apparently are, like, prejudged that he seems to be sticking up for, I guess.
Yes.
I think that's really interesting, and making you like them by the end. So,
yeah, and he himself, which again I wasn't expecting to read so much of this in early drafts of Ferris Bueller. He's so hardcore against so much of what many boomers are still about, which is, we're the actual greatest generation. Like, it's so much of that. I'm not going to say that's the case with any boomer out there. I'm just saying it is a stereotype that does sometimes come true, especially in media. Go watch Forrest Gump and tell me Robert Zemeckis doesn't think he lived through the greatest time in the entire world. Good or bad. It's obvious. And John Hughes was very much against nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. And I didn't think that would be the case, I guess. I didn't know that about him, that's my ignorance playing out, but I wasn't expecting that.
You have interviewed a lot of people and done lots of interviews. I know you don't, I know you said you weren't a journalist, but I dig your style. Talk about this. Talk about some of the takeaways from some of the interviews you had.
Oh, man. So, all right, without... I'm also trying, because there's some juicy bits that literally can't say on mic, but not too much. Most of the stuff, if I'm honest, was just like people I said that negative thing about John Hughes. Can you cut that out? Because John Hughes, well known, by the way, had a whole lot of really tempestuous relationship with certain people. He was very mercurial. He would, love you one day, not love you the next day, never talk to you again for the rest of his life. So that's well known. It's just that a lot of people did indeed repeat that exact same thing to me. And they were like, I don't really want that in there. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It doesn't need to be. It's already out there. Right. But big takeaways. I was honestly, one of my favorite things, especially in re-listening to my own interviews and going back and rereading them, is how frank Matthew Broderick was about being in the parade, which I think that the parade is my favorite thing to write about. I really, really loved researching it and talking to people about it. And everybody loved being there. Didn't matter who the hell you were. They loved it. But him being so frank about how he felt like he was on top of the world and felt like this is the greatest moment of his life. And that, I am king of mountain. I am the coolest guy on the planet. He did actually swear a lot. He didn't exactly say that, but that's the rough vibe. We're I love it. I love being here. And I was just oh, that's a really honest thing to hear from a guy who's now 60 about when he was 21. And I don't know, somebody that big and famous, you don't necessarily get to hear them talk about how amazing it was being them, and without it coming across as, oh, what a jerk. It was just a really sweet moment of being a 20-something and being surrounded by 10,000 people cheering for the fake version of you. I really liked that.
I'd be shocked if he said otherwise, because
for sure,
you
right?
see it on screen. You see it.
You do. Yeah, he did say there's no acting. There's no acting in that scene.
Sure.
Which I love. And I don't know. I interviewed Alan Ruck for We're Not Worthy as well, but interviewing him and just getting more of a vibe of just the weirdest thing to me ever is that he ever had to audition after Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's the main character in that movie. He's not the title character, but he's the main character. And the fact that he had to audition, the fact that it irks me so hard, and it took him so long for his career to kind of to right itself. And I guess that's something everybody already knows, but stuff, just I don't know. I think the behind the scenes stuff that you would not expect, especially how they made the cars, which, by the way, still I have been trying to research that car. I still don't have answers on some of the stuff that I wrote about in that book. I'm still researching the car. That is still happening. That maybe is the biggest thing, the most contentious thing, where people, oh, I have this car. Oh, I have this car. No, I have it. And there's only one officially recognized car that was actually from the movie, and it's on a national registry and stuff. Man, I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question at all. There's just so much in this book that I had to cover. I had to cover I had to become a fake car expert. I had to become a fake this expert. It was kind of crazy.
This is maybe one of the earliest iterations of, I guess, a hangout movie. Yeah, but I'm trying to think. Let's talk about the comedy of it and your thoughts about that. I think if there's any LOL belly laugh situations, it's probably involving Jeffrey Jones and his sort of hijinks, whereas you just want to hang out with the cool teens or talk about the comedy and writing about that of this movie.
I mean it was John Hughes had obviously written slapstick before. Watch any of the vacation movies. He obviously knew how to do that. He'd obviously written the dark, angsty teen stuff. He'd written the smart alecky teen stuff and perfected that. I mean, nobody can write a smart aleck better than John Hughes. Yeah. This is the first time when he combined them and then got to direct them. He hadn't really directed much in the way of slapstick. Not to say there was none, but this was the first big type of slapstick, like falling down into mud stuff that doesn't, again, it doesn't really belong in this movie if you're paying attention, but you're not supposed to pay attention. That's the point of this movie. It is supposed to keep you along for the ride. And so it is not of a piece with the rest of the movie, but all of that fall down, splitting his pants stuff is so dumb and goofy, and yet it somehow works and I still laugh at it. And in most movies, I wouldn't. In most movies, it would feel as shoehorned as it actually is in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But it doesn't. It doesn't, because it's just the energy of that movie keeps you going the whole time. And it's tough, by the way, to talk about Jeffrey Jones in a positive way. But I will just say, in the context of this movie, he's phenomenal. Sure. He's great. He always made me laugh. Yeah. His line deliveries are perfect. And his physical comedy is phenomenal.
I know. 3 times a year, I always rewatch Beetlejuice, Amadeus, and Ferris Bueller, and I'm always like, well, I know,
it's hard. It's hard. So hard.
It's hard. Gosh, think about it. You'll finally be able to cook a decent meal. So he but there's also like something about, maybe this is a tangent for like physical comedy, and this is such a weird tangent, but like if I'm thinking about what makes it really funny, it's that he's, or at least like the tricks of the camera is he's kind of a hulking guy. He's a little tall, 6'2". He's got broad shoulders. I think watching something happen to like a bigger, tall guy is somehow funny to me.
Absolutely.
When he's like yelling and running down the road after his own car, like it's just funny that's extra funny. I don't know how or why.
I mean, he's not just an authority figure. He's physically authoritative, and it doesn't hurt. Like, none of that hurts. Like, it's all, it goes back as far as comedy goes. Like, it just screwing over authority is always funny, but like this is it's particularly funny because it's unrelenting. Right. It's unrelenting, the stuff that happens to him. And what's interesting is in the original scripts and original cut, it didn't happen in the same order, and he actually didn't really get much of a send off. And I would argue that character does deserve a send off, and he gets a great one at the very end in the credits, which is so good.
Talk about your thoughts and feelings and research as someone who also has been making and I'm sure will continue to aspire to be making films or recording, or even just someone who's around directing and producing, even just the comedy vinyl stuff. I think it's inevitable that you do put yourself in the mindset or the shoes of the director, and so talk about a little bit this big moment in Hughes' life. So he gets, again, I keep mentioning contextually Breakfast Club, but he's off of that fairly big success of a movie, but it's all in a library, or it's a location, but this location sounds really stressful. I think that this book is also where there's the anecdote about just even trying to like film the kids walking around talk about filming Chicago and that part of this story, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is, pardon me,
it sounds stressful.
It absolutely does. He proves himself in this way with Breakfast Club, which, by the way, not a movie I grew up with, not a movie I particularly liked, actually, until my late 20s, early 30s, which is weird. I finally got it. It finally sunk in with me. He proved himself by being able to write and shoot a bottle movie, a movie that takes place in one single location almost entirely, which is so very indie, and it almost was just an indie movie that only cost $1 million and that wouldn't have actually been seen, or Alan Ruck was almost in it. A lot of stuff about Breakfast Club, but this movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, is like suddenly he is in the stratosphere. Suddenly he has a budget. It's not the budget you'll see online. It's a bit more than that. It's closer to $10 million. And that $10 million, which is probably 20 or so nowadays, meant he could make I'm not going to call it a love letter to Chicago. I avoided that actively in the book, but it is a thing where he wanted to put his favorite city, his hometown, on display. But to do that, he wanted to do it as big as possible. But he also wanted to make a movie that takes place in a single day feel as huge, physically huge as possible. So he makes this impossible day to go all over the city. But by doing so, they go over budget almost immediately, which is partially because he liked to overshoot. That was something he liked to do to get as many choices as he could. Also, they had to lock down like the biggest locations in all of Chicago, like the Sears Tower, the Art Institute of Chicago, Wrigley Field, at least part of Wrigley Field. They had to lock down all these huge locations and make sure that they could be there on time, which they weren't always.
For 60, 90-second scenes.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They're so brief, but weirdly impactful considering their limited time on screen. And the hell they went through to make a lot of these work. I still, by the way, don't know what day they shot everything. There's no way to know. I have 3 different schedules from the movie, and I don't know what day they shot most of the stuff on because they were running weeks and weeks and weeks behind because that's just how John Hughes rolled.
Amazing. Make Chicago look big. How do you do that? You put it through the eyes of a teenager. Big, wide eyes.
Yeah, exactly. And to translate that, get a couple helicopter shots, something he'd not been able to do in a movie before. Make the stuff look as big as possible, make the kids look as small as possible. Just get that shot. And he does it in just about everything. I feel like, he's got Ferris in the foreground, but he's got all of Wrigley Field in the background. He's got the 3 of them wandering through the museum, but the museum looks larger than life behind them. Or, the lions look huge in comparison to them. The Sears Tower is the big one. Obviously, they just get this huge shot from not the very top of the building, but it looks like it's from the top of the building. And there's all these things that are making Cameron feel small, but are making Ferris feel free at the same time.
Right. Beautifully put. And I just like a shout out to there's literally one might say, Jason, he's writing a love letter to Chicago. No, but there's so also this is beside comedy, but also great soundtrack. There's always great soundtracks on John Hughes movies, but we get this montage over the Flower Pot Men where they're coming into Chicago. But the decision to, it's almost bookended. You see them with the car, then you see 9 clips of Chicago.
Yep.
And then you see them with the car. And that's fantastic. And I've seen this movie 100 times too. If you look, you'll see the helicopter once in a glass building flying around. But I just a note of appreciation for, I wish movies would do that, but I guess we're just not as wonder-filled and too cynical as we once were. Soderbergh does it in Out of Sight, where he comes to Detroit and he's like, look at Detroit. Look at all this.
Yeah.
I just miss filmmakers doing that. That's not a question. But
but it's a good, reasonable observation. The thing is, the magic of an establishing shot is not just to set us where we are. It is to set a mood. It's to set a tone. I don't care that it sucks that they didn't shoot more of Beverly Hills Cop here, but there's not a movie that sets a tone better than that. Within a quick succession of shots, and then there's it is. I'm not going to say an entirely lost art, but it's a simple tool to just give you a whole vibe, and it can carry you through maybe the whole movie, depending.
Sure. Can you talk about anything that you gleaned from, I guess, just maybe this is a screenplay thing, but I guess just the characters? I'm thinking of something I hear often because this library we have a lot of book clubs, and something that you'll hear from a classic book club review attendee will say, I didn't like this book, and let's say it's a really great book, because I didn't like the main character. And I have friends, and I'm like, I really like Ferris Bueller, the movie. And they'll say, well, I don't like Ferris because he's whatever, for whatever reason. He's a smartass, or he's kind of a jerk, or what have you. But that obviously happens in vehicles that we have for comedy. Probably people don't like Jim Carrey and the Cable Guy, but it's a thing. Any things gleaned from the characters? Obviously, we have 2 very distinct right there in the lead on the decisions that Hughes makes.
There's this temptation. Look, I'm going to sound like an old man if I'm not careful.
Go for it.
I don't want to say that. No, never. I will never die. I'm still 20. But
of course you wrote this book.
There is this temptation. The internet does give us the opportunity to anonymously sort of like pontificate about everything and then try and find hot takes and try and find new angles. I actually find that incredibly inspiring because it means more people are thinking, maybe not critically, but at least thinking in an interesting way about their culture, pop culture or otherwise. That's a wonderful thing. So that led to, like, we can talk about it later, but the Fight Club theory of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that basically that Ferris doesn't exist and that it's all in Cameron's head. Impossible, but it's a really fun thought experiment, right? Because of that, and because of simple changing times, yeah, I do think people's perspective on Ferris has changed. Mine hasn't, other than being perfectly aware that he is a bit of an a-hole. Like, he is and the thing, listen to if you can get a hold of the commentary to this movie, I should actually post it online. I don't know if that's legal, but the commentary is great to this movie. You just can't get it on anything except the first edition of the DVD, which I have because, officially a big fan, right? John Hughes is like, well, Ferris isn't necessarily like a righteous person or whatever. He admits that he's manipulative, but he is charming as hell. That is the entire point. Like, he's doing things that are not necessarily good or not necessarily positive, and he's doing them to try and execute to come about a positive end for his friend Cameron. That is the general idea, but he does it in a real dicky way. Sure. And that's why that's why casting was a little difficult. And they finally settled on Matthew Broderick because look how cute he is. He's so adorable. Like, you're not going to not fall for that. And I think, to me, like, the way public perception of these characters has changed is very interesting because people have leaned maybe further against thinking Ferris is the coolest guy in the world. I do not think he's a cool guy to school. That is my theory. That's my hot take. I don't think he's cool. I think he's a little nerd in his own little alcove. And that Cameron is, people have become more aware of the idea that Cameron is the lead and that he is the most important character and that he is possibly suffering from crippling depression. And I think those are the most interesting things, just digging into those a little bit more, because they have now flown fully out of the hands of John Hughes. The perception of those characters will never be what John Hughes wanted necessarily. Which is one of the things about writing the book, too. It's just, I'm like, I need to examine this through my eyes, but also just make sure that I remind people this is what Hughes intended, but he can't really control what it's become, kind of thing.
I think if people haven't come to like Ferris, they should ask whether or not, in my theory, whether or not they like Bart Simpson. Because here's the thing about Bart that I find a parallel to Ferris. Bart, obviously well known through the school and has a reputation. Probably his actual only real friend is Milhouse. And I think that you watch this movie and you talk, and Edie McClure says everybody likes him. But you get the impression that Cameron is actually his only, and not in a sad way, kind of in a beautiful way, his only real friend.
Yeah.
I like that.
Me too.
What else was it? Anything that we left unsaid, I could talk to you all day about things you gleaned from this, especially from, was it actors or anyone else maybe at the peripheries of this movie that you found profound?
Oh, man. I love interviewing. I interviewed a ton of extras, and I will very quick, I don't normally do this, shout out to Ruth Kaufman, who is an extra who took a bunch of photos during the parade sequence that she has never even put on Facebook. So the first time they're being shown is in our book.
Wow.
Yeah, this woman is a friggin' godsend of a person. She's also, by the way, she's got an impressive resume. She's in Marvel stuff. Like, she's got a great resume, but this is her first gig as an extra. She happened to bring a camera and shoot it. But speaking to crew and extras and people who don't normally get interviewed is my favorite thing to do anyway. Like, I was a career extra for a long time, and so I love talking with extras. So their perspective is always very interesting. I'm trying to think who of the crew people. I really loved talking with John Fraser, who is the special effects coordinator, because the guy talked on more stuff than I actually would have expected. It was mostly about the car, but he had deep memories of the car. This guy is Academy Award winning. He invented the thing that flips cars, like with hydraulics and stuff. The dude's a genius. He's an absolute genius. And well, I could talk about some of the stuff I had to cut out of the book, but like I cut it out for reasons, so I probably shouldn't talk about it on here. But just talking with him about the technical, because you don't think, I guess to me, part of the book is to appreciate the art form of comedy and the art form of filmmaking in a new way,
right?
Or at least in a way at all. If you normally take comedy for granted, and I thought that speaking with the special effects coordinator in a comedy will just remind you, oh right, there are special effects in this movie. You don't think of it, but there's a really big special effect that involves a car jumping out a giant window, and it's that. That chapter could have been twice as long. And it's already too long. The book is already too. I had to cut 12,000 words out of this to fit it into the hardcover and make it approachable to buy. So yeah, I could have gone way too deep into it. And the car comes up a lot because I don't know anything about cars, and this was me learning about them, I think.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not even answering your question. I apologize.
No, you did. That was a great answer. That was a great answer. I'm just closing all my thoughts on the comedy of this, and it's just fascinating to me that the only time I think that Ferris is really involved in a laugh for me is when he needs something else as a punchline to set it up. It's like, what is it? $20 says he's just sitting in his room or his car. Like that's great, but it's still not Ferris being the comedy there. It's
true. No, very much the straight man. Rarely does he do too much that immediately gives me, except for when he's playing a little kid. When Matthew Broderick is playing a little kid, it's written as he's very hoarse. He doesn't play it hoarse. He's just talking like a little 6-year-old boy, and it's the dumbest crap on the planet. And yet it is stuff that, like, when I told my mom I was writing this book, I think she quoted that scene to me because it's something that we watched a million times over and over again.
Amazing. Anything we left unsaid? Oh gosh, just anything else you can share for anyone who is not familiar with the world of comedy on vinyl. Tell us, I guess, give yourself some plugs for the podcast and that lane of your life.
I haven't done that. So I officially ended it in 2021 with Weird Al. And that was because A, I wanted to end it. And B, I promised Weird Al's manager that his episode would be the final regular episode of the show.
Fair, but it's still going to be a lifelong passion.
It's still going to be. It is, and it's still out there. And I still do. I'm loving it more actually now that the show is over because I'm actually getting to look at it in a different way, and it's no longer a compulsion to buy comedy albums. I used to have that. I have hundreds of them. I've just recently gave away half of my vinyl comedy collection to the Detroit Public Library.
Amazing.
And they didn't have any. And so they're starting a vinyl comedy section that for some reason they've decided to put my name on. I did not ask for that, and I'm not a millionaire. But it's fun to not be a millionaire and have your name put on something. That's kind of cool. But yeah, I love vinyl comedy. To me, it's the ultimate comedic art form that could be easily disproven by anybody. But for me personally, it is the ultimate comedic art form. It's something I'm still shooting to make for myself. This one behind me I produced, but my voice is not on it. I'm still working on making one. But it is basically the whole theme of the show is talking about vinyl comedy with people. With the rough idea my rough idea was to ask everybody, hey, did you make friends over listening to comedy albums as a kid? Turns out most people did, of a certain age. It was a lot of white Gen X men, but that is just how it goes. And I still love digging into vinyl comedy. Vinyl was the easiest thing because it was like slowly but surely having a resurgence at that point. And there's a deliberate listening habit that you have to sort of establish in order to use it. You have to actively listen. You have to physically put the needle down and pay attention to what you're doing. And I don't know, it's a practice in active listening. And to me, you learn a lot about comedy that way.
Not to reveal your age and not to bring it back to
45. It's fine.
Not to bring
20,
it back.
I will never die.
Not to bring it back to generational things, but you are that interestingly odd pocket of people calling you Xennial. You're not exactly Gen X, Jason.
Right. That is true.
And yet, or you're like the oldest millennial on the planet. And yet, and this is similar to me because I'm not that far behind you, is we grew up watching Gen Xers on screen. And now you just wrote an entire book about that. And it weaves, I'm sure it wove into to We're Not Worthy. I mean, that's again, even just the Wayne's World guys, a movie you watched a lot, are Gen Xers. So to set up 40% of a question and trail off, like perhaps that's just I mean, perhaps that's just something if I'm 13, 14, I don't want to watch a movie with 13 and 14-year-olds. I want to watch movies with 18-year-olds because they look cooler and I want to hang out with them and I want to be
100%.
that. And so I think maybe that's just the natural course of things. But you certainly have ellipsis. You certainly have spent a lot of time living in Gen Xers' heads, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's unavoidable. I can't get outside of that. I don't know that I necessarily need to or want to, except there will be a point where if I get to write a comedy on vinyl book, then I will get to do the dumb crap I like, which is like finally talk about the Marx Brothers and stuff. Because like there's probably no better war satire than Duck Soup, and like while that's not on vinyl, I could dig into that stuff pretty hard. Like. I mean, look, last September I released a Cylinder record. I mean, come on, like this is the kind of crap I'm into. So yeah, I like old timey crap.
Oh man. Look at you, Thomas Edison. So let's plug the book and where they can find more information. It comes out in June. It's not probably on a Tuesday. Would that be June?
Yeah, June 16th.
Nice.
It was, yeah. Mm-hmm. June 16th from 1984 Publishing.
Wonderful. We will be linking to your website in the show notes. Jason,
thank you.
Did we leave anything unsaid? Or if you have any questions for me, this is your last chance before you get off the bus.
Who at your library do I have to commit to buying 10 copies of my book? I got you on see now. All I got to do is just get you out loud to say, yes, Jason, we will buy.
Well, I believe your book is going to be in the 790s of the Dewey Decimal System. So I know who does that collection, and I'll talk to them. You got it. Somewhere in the 790s is where you'll find film, 780s for music. So, and then it gets into sports, and whatever. Like
no, that's never going to be me.
Jason, appreciate your time so much. This has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Folks at home, thanks for listening to another episode of A Little Too Quiet. It's the Ferndale Library Podcast. It's brought to you by the Friends of the Ferndale Library. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. If you want to support this podcast, simply go to ferndalefriends.org and also go check out everything and anything and whatever and everything about and from Jason Klamm, our guest. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
We'll be back next week with more. Thanks for listening. You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go on.